to call it the proverbial big one.
That's right.
And yes, talking about the proverbial big one, well, today on the Drive Time discussion, we'll be talking about parenting and safeguarding the child. Well, in actual fact, this is something that we actually need to talk about, especially in light of what's been happening, not just in social media, but in personal lives, in our personal lives. However, to be a part of a Drive Time discussion this evening, you get to, well, call us up and share your thoughts with us as we go along on 014489 981. That's the number to call in. That's 014489 981. However, if you want to share your thoughts with us via WhatsApp, you get to do that on 009 4440981. That's 009 4440981. And discussing this evening with us, well, when we're talking about this topic alone, well, it is important to have a seasoned, well, to have someone seasoned enough to talk about these issues and address it. And who am I talking about? We have a special guest with us, and he is Taiwo Akinlami. He's a social development and family legal practitioner. And a pleasure to have you with us this evening. Mr.
Thank
Taiwo.
you for having me. It's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you so much.
Great. So talking about parenting, especially in this 24th, well, in this generation that we are in, a lot of things will definitely come to mind. And parenting is, as we say, a profound responsibility. And safeguarding your child against sexual abuse is an essential aspect of it. And in Nigeria, like in many parts of the world, child abuse is a serious concern. And well, we're hoping that with this conversation that we'll be having today, it will shed more light on what we as individuals, families, and parents need to look out for, and how we can also guide the child right in making sure that they too can come up to us and share their thoughts as people. So without much ado, let's get into the conversation proper.
That's right. Let's get into the conversation proper. And speaking about the conversation proper, it actually is a culmination, or should I say, something that was brought about by recent events that happened, and that has to do with the conviction of Dr. Femi Olaleye, who has been sentenced to life imprisonment for the defilement of his wife's niece when the minor was 15 to 16 years old. And this conviction was brought on by the Lagos State Sexual Offences and Domestic Violence Court. Now, he was put on trial in November 2022 on a 2-count charge of defilement and sexual assault by penetration of the minor. That was between December 2019 and July 2022, when she had come to live with the family. Now, looking at this issue, it's something that we would say is new. We've heard different stories at different times of someone who is in a position of authority, a position of power, who has taken advantage of a minor. It could be a family member of his wife, even his own family member. We've heard of fathers who have defiled daughters as well. We've heard of individuals who have defiled neighbors' children, or even housemaids of neighbors, and so on and so forth. So it's something that we've heard at different times, and it is also something that needs to be, should I say, put at the forefront of our thoughts, because many of these cases, either they go underreported, and even in situations when they do go underreported, they get reported, they might not get justice at the end of the day. But the Lagos State government in the last couple of years have toed a very, very hard line when it comes to dealing with sexual offenders, especially those that involve minors, which is, as far as I'm concerned, one of the most heinous things that anyone can actually do, a crime that anyone can actually commit. So that actually, should I say, set the tone to have this conversation, talking about parents, talking about our children, our nieces, our cousins, whomever, who are in a position of vulnerability, and what can be done in order to safeguard them, to make sure they don't fall into the wrong hands, to make sure that these sorts of things don't happen to them, and of course we keep them safe. Now, let's now, using that background, let's get into the groove right now and talk about how parents can actually strike a balance between giving their children independence and actually safeguarding them. How can that balance actually be struck?
Well, once again, thank you for having me. I think it's more of understanding who children are
Okay.
and the reason why they are here and the reason why we are here. When we have that understanding of who children are, the reason why we are here, the reason why they are here, the role we are supposed to play in their lives is going to help us to understand that there are two things that actually come to the fore. Number one, protect a child. Number two, leave a child to himself or herself. Now, both the children that are abused and the children that are left to themselves, they share common destinies in the
Okay.
sense that if you leave a child to himself or herself, that child does not understand control. That child does not understand that there's no absolute freedom anywhere. Whatever freedom you have, there are always stop gaps to every freedom. Your freedom to move around also must take into cognizance the duty of your parents to protect you. Now, then the second thing that if a child is abused, also, what abuse takes away is that abuse takes away the dignity of human person, the interesting personality of the person. Abuse humanizes human beings. So whether a child is abused or a child is left on his or her own, both of them, in both circumstances, they share common destiny. So where do we go from here? What we need to do, first of all, is to understand the major principle of care. Now, when we say we care for children, it means one thing, because care does not mean buying clothes for children. Care, it may be part of it. Care does not mean feeding children. It may be part of it, because what is the benefit of food to a child whose mind is destroyed? Because the truth of the matter is that once a child is abused, the impact of that abuse is eternal, except there's divine intervention. You talk about Dr. Laleye, the life sentence and all of that. Now, for me, I received that news with mixed feelings. Why did I receive with mixed feelings? A person who has been abused sexually, physically, emotionally, or by neglect can never get justice. Now, even when the perpetrator is sentenced, even when the perpetrator goes to jail, that does not signify, that may be a kind of justice, a kind of, a sense of, okay, something has happened. But once a person is abused, the impact of that abuse is eternal, except there's divine intervention. Even where there's divine intervention, is still a lifelong thing. You know why? Because by God's design, a child is not created to be abused. Abuse alters the entire makeup of a child, spirit, soul, and body. That's what abuse does. Now, somebody is in life imprisonment, all well and good. It can serve as deterrence. Okay, if we talk about justice from the perspective that it can serve as deterrence to other people, maybe, or to that particular person that has been abused, there's no amount of imprisonment. Even there's no amount of castration or removal of fallopian tube that can give justice to that person. That is, if justice means restitution, if justice means to return that person back to where the person was before the abuse came. Now, why did I say this? That is why our effort in our organization is geared towards prevention. Prevention is better than cure. UNICEF has said, if it takes you $1 to prevent abuse, it's going to take you $4 to respond to it. So therefore, my commitment as a person and the organization that I lead and the people we work with and what we put out there is that enlightenment is superior to enforcement. That is key. So when we're talking about our children, between freedom and protecting them, I think the foundational thing is for us to first accept what is our role. What is the role of our children? What kind of protection do we need? How do we communicate it to them? Once we get that right, and we have them in proportional measure, how to disseminate that, I think we're going to be on safe grounds.
Well, talking about safe grounds, we see that most of us are, well, we live in digital age right now. So my question is, what are the safety measures as parents or as guardians that we should put in place to actually protect these ones with this digital age in which we find ourselves?
Okay, so I think that when it comes to protecting children
Mm,
globally, it
mm,
has come to be accepted that the only way to
mhm.
protect children today is through systems. And let me
Okay.
define to you what I mean by systems. Now, when we talk about systems, people think that it's only for organizations. No, almost everywhere children are gathered, there's need
Mm,
for system. You know why? Take any issue that has to do with a child today. Take
mhm,
anyone. It is either is entirely child safeguarding and protection focused, or it has a huge component of child safeguarding and protection. Now, what is child safeguarding and protection in layman's language? It is the commitment of everyone in the lives of the child. There are four rings of protection: the family, the
mhm,
community, the government, the international community. A
Mm.
commitment to ensure that children are protected from four kinds of abuse: physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, and neglect. Please note, none of this abuse is more destructive or more lethal than the other.
And the other.
Whether you talk about physical abuse, you talk
mhm,
about sexual abuse, you talk about emotional abuse, all of
mm,
them have almost the same impact on
impact.
children. So there are
Mm,
people who say, I've not sexually molested a child, but you have taken the emotion of the child for a ride. You have turned the
mm,
child to nothing but a puppet. You have turned the child to a subhuman person. You have treated the child less than a human being. And you know
mm,
that, when you go to court, for example, if I go to court,
okay.
I say somebody has actually molested a child, the person
Mhm,
can still wriggle his or her way out. But when
mm,
I go to court and I say that a person has emotionally abused a child, all that I need to establish is that the event occurred. The
okay.
impact of the event on the child
Mm,
is subjective to the child. Nobody can say who is going to check the content of my heart, or the content of my psyche, or the level of my confidence. Which therapist is going to check that to say that I was actually impacted? It is about what I'm telling the court I'm feeling. I'm saying that since the day he raised his voice on me, which he has
mhm,
done consistently for 3 years or 2 years, since that first day he did it, I feel subhuman. I began to have suicidal thoughts. You can't tell me I didn't have suicidal thoughts. So the emotional abuse in itself is the easiest to prove. Are you getting it? So
mm,
care, therefore, means that we anticipate the needs of children. We anticipate the threats to them. We make
mm,
adequate preparation to meet
mm,
those needs and mitigate those threats well before they arise. Whether they are within a home or within a school, whether digitally or physically, whether virtually or in person. Now, system is the way to protect children, whether at home or in school. So the question today is, everything that matters to you, ladies and gentlemen, everything that matters to you goes
mhm,
through a system. This program that we're having is a system. What is the system? Determine who is going to be the guest. Fix the date. Contact the guest. Is he available? Is he going to be virtual? Is it going to be in person? If it's going to
Mm.
be in person, he's going to come to our studio. If it's going to be virtual, it's going to happen through Zoom. That is a process. Now, that process did not eventuate. That process did not jump on us. We did not
mm,
just sit down and say, God, show us who you want to come and talk in this program. So my
mm.
picture appears. After my picture appears to you in a dream, you confirm from Joy. Joy, did you have the dream that I had today? I also had the same dream. Taiwo Akinlami, okay, if it is the will of God, that is the one that will come and speak to us, let's continue to pray. Let's continue to pray. And you know that after today, you are going to be in trouble with your station when this program does not hold, because you did not respect system. There's a system in place, right,
Mhm.
that has been created on how to bring a guest. Are you getting what I'm saying? So the
Yeah,
same way, if we are serious about the business of protecting children, we cannot
yeah,
leave it on whims and caprices of situations. When something happens, we begin to rock up in hand as headless chicken,
mm,
trying to look for what to do. If we are thinking about the care of children, it is a
yeah,
height of responsibility to be raising children in the 21st century and not plan ahead.
all
Here
right,
is to anticipate the needs of children, is to
all right.
anticipate the threat to them and make adequate preparation to meet those needs and mitigate those threats well
Okay.
before they arise. And if you are in the 21st century, we are in the fourth industrial, fifth industrial revolution, the internet of things, fourth and fifth, the internet of things. the world has become digital, accentuated by the advent of COVID. You now know that everything has gone digital. Now, the question is, when everybody went digital, the bad people did not stay behind. They also took their enterprise online. They did not stay. When you say everybody has gone digital, everybody has gone online, you think pedophiles also stay behind? They have to also perform their enterprise. They were even online before you got there. They were waiting. Because the people who abuse children always have this foresight more than the people who want to protect them. What happens most of the time is that the people who want to protect children always do catch up, while the people who want to mess them up are always ahead. The people who want to protect children, the people who want to destroy children are always there for children. They are present in the lives of those children. They are present with their songs. They are present with their music. They are present with everything. It is those who want to help them that come
go
later
ahead.
after. Now, the people who want to destroy children, don't shout on them. They don't abuse, they don't shout on them. They manage them, they package them. There's a way they present their message so that it can
you please hold that thought?
Yes.
Can you please hold that thought? I actually don't mean to, to get in the middle of this, because it's actually very, very, eye-opening. But we need to take a quick break. But on the other side, we'll continue the conversation. Of course, you give us more insights into these systems and how they can actually be put into place.
Thank you very much.
So Lagos Smooth 98.1 Drive Time discussion will be back in a moment. Don't go anywhere.
28.1.
Hey, listeners on Spotify are driving Afrobeats to billions
of things are
happening. Now you can join in on the journey and listen to your favorite music without breaks.
And that's a very valid point, because the predators were always there.
They've always been there. They're just in the back.
There was no anticipation. They were already there waiting. They were ready.
Always
Balanced taste. With our unique expertise, we select fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world. Experience Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip. Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste.
It's a full house.
Connection is very important. Keep it strong at home or on the go. With Airtel Home Broadband Internet devices, get the 10,000 Naira or the 20,000 Naira router.
Only
30 gigabytes and 100 gigabyte data instantly. Or the 5,000 Naira MiFi and the 7,500 Naira MiFi that gives you 5 gigabytes and 30 gigabytes instantly. Hurry to the nearest Airtel shop or visit www.airtel.com.ng/HBB to get started. Airtel, a reason to imagine.
What can you say about your finances? Let's talk about it, shall we?
What can I say about money?
People don't really like to talk about money. Or do they?
It's extremely complicated.
I think everyone worries about not having money and being broke.
We make money, we spend.
Playing about money while you reach about
Well, for me, I don't invest in businesses. That's how I started to learn about money.
It really becomes you versus the economy.
Then you realize there's little or no money to save, even though you work hard for it.
That's why every couple you earn to be stretched as far as it can go.
Sadly.
Nowadays, we no longer spend cocoa.
Especially when it comes to matching up against the dollar.
Now, let's discuss your finances and simplify its principles. Tune in to Personal Finance on Smooth 98.1 every Wednesday from 5:15 p.m.
All right, and we are back, Lagos Drive Time discussion right here on Smooth 98.1. The Smooth Drive, Joy and I are with you, and this evening having a great conversation as always. We're talking about parenting and safeguarding the child, and of course, with us this evening, breaking this all down and giving us the load and giving us all the insights is Taiwo Akinlami. He's a social development and a family legal practitioner as well. And Lagos, you can be a part of this conversation. Come through with your thoughts. Your messages can be sent in via WhatsApp on 0809440981, 0809440981. You can also give us a ring if you'd like to talk to us directly right here in the studio. 01448991 is the number. 01448991 is the number. You can also catch the live stream out there on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos, and you'll be right in the thick of the action. All right, Mr. Akinlami, let's get back into this conversation. And before the break, you were talking about systems that need to be in place. And I love the analogy that you used, the program. It was a great analogy. I mean, of course, things are pre-planned, they're intentional, you know what you want to do, and you know how you're going to go about them. So in terms of putting systems in place to safeguard these children, especially now, as you said, we're in the digital age. Before, the worry was, okay, worrying about people who are with you physically, offline. Maybe one or one uncle or somebody. But now the internet has exposed the whole world to everything. So you can be here and somebody who is in the North Pole can be talking to you. So it's a wider web now. So talking about these systems, how can they be put in place and what exactly should be done?
Okay, I think the first thing is this. So thinking ahead is to have in place what I call a system. What does a system speak to? A system speaks to 5 fundamental things, or 4 at most. Number one, what is our goal or set of goals for the protection of our children in the 21st century? There's no way we can have that plan, that conversation. That is the beginning of a system, because if you don't know where you are going, every bus stop looks attractive. Somebody said, you have to first sit down and say, okay, as a family, as a school, as a religious place of worship, what is our goal or set of goals for protecting children? That has to be in place. Now, if you are trying to have that conversation, it will also help you to answer the question, what are we protecting children from? You can't have a goal without a target. If you are trying to play football, you know that for you to win, you have to put the ball behind the net. So the first thing is, what is our goal or set of goals? Then number 2, who is responsible for what? Who is responsible for what in a family? Who is responsible for what in a school? Who is responsible for what in a religious place of worship? Who is responsible for what in the community when it comes to protecting children? Number 3 is, what is the person responsible for? People say child safeguarding and protection is everybody's business. I say no, everybody's business when it comes to reporting. But when it comes to taking action, it is the business of those who have knowledge. Knowledge is what to do. It is the business of those who have skills. Skill is how to do it. It is the business of those who have the fortitude. Fortitude is the inner strength to do that which you know you should do. Now, so who is responsible for what? What is the person responsible for?
Okay.
Lastly, how is the person responsible for it? So we can't take things just for granted. We can't take it on the face of it. Please note, you can't protect children, whether you are a primary parent or a secondary parent, by native intelligence. There's no such thing. The world has become complicated and very, very hydra-headed that you cannot sit down somewhere and say, I'm going to protect my children is through native intelligence. If you're out there, you will understand that there's something called transable. What does it mean to be transable? It is that you have all your body parts complete, but you think you are supposed to be disabled. Then you begin to go for therapy so that you can remove an eye, remove a leg, and all of that. There's what we call transspecies. What does it mean to be a transspecies? You are a human being, but you believe you are supposed to be a cheetah or a goat or chicken or whatever. And you begin to go through therapy so that you can become that. When you go to Facebook today, there are 3 sexes, male, female, and custom. Under custom, you have over 80-something sexes. Now, we're living in a massive hybrid world. When you're talking about sex, now, when I was growing up, sex was about male and female, and it was basically about gender. But today we are told that there's a difference between sex and gender. That sex is biology, gender is social construct. So which means there's something now called assigned sex, gender at birth. All of these are complicated conversations that we people cannot have without having the necessary training. So when you have in place a system, your system will determine what is the goal or set of goals. How do I protect children in the digital age? How do I protect children in the 4th industrial revolution, in the 5th industrial revolution, where social media platforms are springing up on daily basis? The one you know today, by tomorrow, other ones are springing up. There are some that children are involved in. There are all kinds of challenges that are on TikTok, egg spreading challenges, all kinds of challenges, substance swallowing challenges, all kinds of challenges. So you know you cannot move by native intelligence. Now, this your system must be codified into a policy. So a family should have a policy. If you think a policy is too big in a family, then think about a family constitution. What is a family constitution? It is to have in place, after you have thought about what is the goal or set of goals, Who is responsible for what? What is the person responsible for? How is the person responsible for? Then document it. Document it in a place. After you have documented all of these things, then have conversations around it. Have conversation with your children. What exactly is child sexual abuse? How does the predator behave? Now, let me quickly round up this by saying, if children don't understand how predators behave, a predator does 4 things. Number 1, the predator size up the child, profiles the child. There's no criminal who is what its name and his status as a criminal who does not profile. Because a criminal does not want to be caught. So if a criminal does not want to be caught, he has to profile. He doesn't just jump on you. If he's going to collect your bag, he will have profiled you, checked you out. Maybe I watch you for like 3 days. Or it's an opportunist crime that, is you are the wrong place for, or a wrong place for you, a right place for him. And he quickly, carries out his activity or his enterprise and his appears. A criminal does not want to be caught. So a pedophile or an abuser, a sexual abuser will profile the child. After profiling the child, looks at the child who is quiet. Look at the child who is always alone. Look at the child who is greeting you and is looking down. Look at the child who cannot look straight into your eyes and introduce himself or herself. Look at the child who is shy. Say, I'm shy. Being shy is not a plus. Being shy is a problem. It has to be addressed. You can't say I'm shy. My children are shy. I can't introduce myself. I can't talk to people. You can't extend your hand and shake hands with somebody and look straight into the person's eyes, and introduce yourself. You are introducing yourself. You are looking away. You are trying to talk about your name. You are laughing when you are laughing when you are not being tickled. What is being said is not funny. You are just laughing. And so the pedophile, the abuser and research has not found that 90% or 95% of those who abuse children are not strangers, are people that the children know, uncles, aunties, grandfathers, grandmothers, people that are well close to the children. Those are the people practicing this abuse. So the abuser profiles. After the abuser has profiled, the abuser begins to groom. What does it mean to groom? Is to get the child to be comfortable with the abuser and to get the child to be comfortable with the culture and the language of abuse. My wife, my husband, come and sit here, come and do all of that. That is grooming. Once the abuser finishes grooming the child, the next thing the abuser does is to now attack the child by all kinds of things that the abuser would do. After attacking the child, the abuser now does the 4th thing, which is the sealer. The abuser now manipulates the child. What does it mean by manipulation? It is either through threat or through subtle, conversations. I will buy this for you. I will take care of you. Everything will be okay. If that one is not working, it changes to threat. If you speak to anybody, I will kill you. I will kill myself. I will kill your parents. You want to make my life miserable? If anything happens, I'm going to commit suicide. Children need to understand the psychology of the abuser. Now, this is the challenge. The challenge is those who want to discuss sexuality education with their children themselves were abused growing up. Because they were abused growing up and they never found healing and they never discussed it. Anytime their children come to them to say, Daddy and Mommy, what do you think? Because discussing that thing will bring her back to her own experience. She's going to say, go and meet your daddy. The child goes to meet daddy. Daddy, sorry, this is what happened in school today. Do you know a child came back home one day, 9-year-old boy, and said, Mommy, they said that if for a woman not to get pregnant, daddy and mommy, husband, if a man wants to have intercourse with a woman, if the man uses condom, then the woman is not going to get pregnant. So the 9-year-old boy came to ask the mother. He said, "Is that true?" He said, "No." Is it true? He said, "You and daddy, how did you have me? Did you not use condom?" That's what the boy came to ask the child, 9-year-old. The mother told me that when she heard that, she was fixing food. The school bus just dropped the pot, and she was fixing food for them. When that question came, she was weak. She was saying, "Okay, where do I start this conversation from?" But it's a conversation I must have. I must not drive it under the carpet. I may not know how to address it. I may not know what to say, but I know what I must not say. I know what I must not do. And she put herself together, fix the food. Don't worry, we are going to discuss that. And I sat down with him. Why are you asking that question? Of course, they were teaching them in school. HIV, ABC, abstain, be faithful, condom, and all of those things. And those are the things they were teaching them. And the children's mind is imaginative, is absorbent, it goes very far. and he begins to put two and two together. Maybe he's even been bullied in school, and he's feeling that if only my father and mother has used condom, I wouldn't be in this world going through what I'm going through right now. Why didn't you take that precaution? Why did you bring me here? A lot might be going through the mind of the child, you know. And so the point I'm trying to make on a final analysis is that whether it is digital or it is physical, you cannot win this battle by subjecting to your whims and caprices. You run organizations, my listeners, you run organizations. Your organizations has policies. Your organization has processes. You run associations, even association of your town in different places. You have constitution. You don't just come and meet together. Now, if those associations and those companies are supposed to be less important than the family, how come it is the family that does not have guidelines, that does not have principles, that does not have what we do? It is when something goes wrong that we begin to shout, begin to cry. This has to stop. We have to be proactive. We have to be intentional. And the way to be intentional is through system, codified into policy, broken down into processes on which everybody is trained. And when I'm talking about training, conversations with our children, conversations with our spouses, asking the question, what is sleepover in our family? Are we going to allow it? Who can our children go to do sleepover with? How many screen time, how much screen hours are our children allowed in this home? How do we ensure that they stay within that sleep hour? What exactly is private part, public part? You know, because we talk about this thing we call private part, public part. For children, every part of the body is private. A child does not have private part, public part, because you see, nobody has the right to touch a child or even wink at a child sexually, because the child does not have capacity to give consent. Let me give you a quick example. Joy,
let's hold the example.
Let's hold the example. And of course, when we get back, you mentioned parents having a conversation. We would love to hear you give tips on how parents can actually have those conversations, but we'll do that on the other side of this break. Lagos Drive Time Discussion on Smooth 98.1 will continue in a bit. Don't go anywhere.
This is Mr. C, and you're listening to Smooth 98.1 for music and more.
West Africa's leading international art fair, Artex Lagos.
There's one more break at 7:40. That's like 5 minutes.
From the 2nd to the 5th of December. Artex
because what we
have a lot of ads right now. So
it's okay.
Join us to explore
how do you keep it going without ads?
The more the merrier.
Yes.
Access Holding, Stamping ID, Pension Management, Capitol Hill Dennis, Anap Jazz, DSTV Nigeria, Trace TV, Smooth FM,
communication. A lot of people don't want to have that conversation.
Yeah, it's a very awkward conversation. Like how will I talk about this? What should I talking about?
Why am I talking to my child about condom? Why am I talking about their sexual experience? Why should they know? Because when a child come and ask you, how did I come about? And then you start giving him imagination.
Some parents just shout on the child and say, my friend, will you go and eat your food? Is that what you went to school to do? Some parents will do that because they don't want to have that conversation.
All right, going back up.
Okay.
All right, Lagos, and we are back. Drive Time Discussion right here on the Smooth Drive on Smooth 98.1 with Joy and Ayo. It has been, or it is, such an amazing discussion this evening, talking parenting and safeguarding the child as well. And Taiwo Akinlami, social development and family practitioner, is still with us. He has been laying it down for us this evening, giving us quite a great understanding of how these things occur, how predators think, and of course, the things that parents actually should be doing in order to be 10 steps ahead of anybody who might have such bad intentions. You can be part of the conversation once again. You can join us on WhatsApp by sending in your messages, any questions or thoughts you might have, 20809 440 981. You can also give us a ring if you'd like to talk to us directly right here in the studio, 014489 981 014489 You can also join the live stream on YouTube at Smooth 981 FM Lagos. All right, Mr. Akinlami, let's get back really quickly to the conversation. And we're talking about parents having conversations with their children. awkward conversations they might as they might seem, but conversations that need to be had, because if you don't have the conversations at home, the kids will have the conversations outside with someone else who they probably should not be. So how can parents actually get comfortable and approach these conversations with their kids?
Okay, I think the first thing is that you can only have conversations that you are comfortable with having. So the first thing is that if you had issues growing up, you need help. You need to get that help. You have to. That's number one, because you can't give what you do not have, but you can create what you do not have. You can't stay on that mountain of I can't do what I don't have, because you have a responsibility. You have brought children to this world. So the number one thing is that the one who wants to have the conversation must be comfortable with the conversation. As a matter of fact, because it takes the deep to give to the deep, the deep calls to the deep. Even if you want to have the conversation, perfunctorily, because you are told to have the conversation, you're not going to have the conversation perfunctorily. You can only have the conversation when it is a matter of the soul, because what we are dealing with is something that your children need to understand. Now, rules and regulation does not work. Breathing down the neck of your children does not work. No child receives anything by force except by reasoning, because children are reasoning beings. So you have to reason with them. Even from the smallest to the oldest, you have to reason with them. A child is 0 to 18. You have to reason with them. So I think the first thing is for you to find healing for yourself. Number two, how do I talk that children will listen? How do I listen that children will talk? The solution to that is to create time for it. So there are conversations you need to deliberately create time for. There are conversations you need to be on the lookout for, to seize the opportunity of teachable moments. Something has just happened. You just saw something in a movie. And so you want to use that opportunity to have one or two conversations. Now, please note, not messing up the movie for the child, because this is family time. We're supposed to be watching movies, but your children don't want to watch movies with you again, because anything you see in the movie is an opportunity for you to now begin to say, you see what happened to that boy in that movie, and the child is feeling, Mommy, I don't want to watch any movie anymore, because this all the sermons we want to preach in this life. It is during movies. Movie is supposed to be leisure time that you mess it up for us. But you see, teachable moments cannot be, we must look out for it. So there has to be a conversation that is regular. Now, there are families who have family meetings. That family meetings is fixed. It's fixed. Because you see, raising children is a big business. Now, in this, what I mean by business, and I'm saying the profit of it, the responsibility of it. There are families who have family retreats with other family, with like-minded families, right? They have family retreats. They go away at the end of the year for 5 days, 6 days. They have chosen families with common values, and they're able to have conversations. Now, for me, so that conversation you must be comfortable with it. Number two, you must create time for it. Number three, you must look out for teachable moments that, you can seize the moment and use the opportunity to pass messages. Your conversation must be healthy. You cannot mess up a child in the process of trying to explain something to the child. Your conversation must be truthful. If you go close to a boy, you will get pregnant. That was in those days. Children are smarter than that. These days, you can't come and tell children anything. And when you tell children those things, and they go out, they know already that what you are saying is not correct. Because when I was being raised, I had only one parent.
Okay.
My father and my mother. Okay, my teachers and my neighbors. My parents could trace everybody parenting me. But today, you have many people competing in the space of parenting your child. Who is a parent? Everyone who has influence on your children.
Okay.
So the musicians are parents. The nanny is a parent. The neighbor who you expose your children to are parents. The teacher is a parent. You yourself, what percentage of impact do you bring to the table? School is playing their role. Nanny is playing her role. Neighbors are playing their role. Religious places are playing their role. And if it is input that determines output, what now happens is that at the end of the day, your impact is the least, because you are the least present in the life of the child. So because you are the least present, you are the weak link. You are the weaker vessel in that relationship. So it is important to understand that if you are going to have relationship with children, children don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Were you there at inter-sport? The day the child did not, you are not at inter-sport because the child would do well. You also are at inter-sport because the child may not do well. I tell you the story of Jack Welch. Jack Welch boasts that his mother is the greatest influence in his life. You know, he belonged to this team. I think it's an American football team. And one day they have been losing. And the mother will always come and see him at the game. And this particular day they've lost. And all of them were in the locker room. You know, their heads were down. And somebody broke the protocol. No parent was allowed to come in. And it was the mother of Jack Welch who said, why are you guys bowing your head? You don't know that in this life, you win some, you lose some. If you don't lose, you don't learn how to win. Let me tell you something. Explain to them that failure is not final, because failure is not a thing. Failure is a process. Success is a process. He said his mother taught him a great lesson he never forgot in his life. So if you are going to have conversation with children, it does not begin with conversations. It begins with you yourself. Are you comfortable with the conversation? It begins, are you creating time for the conversation? Also, you that you want to have the conversation, what relationships do you have with the child?
With children.
If we suffer with him, the book that I read says, if we suffer with him, then we'll reign with him. What suffering are you going through with him? Yes, you are paying school fees. Are you there when he's being bullied? Are you there when he's feeling down? Are you there when he's feeling suicidal? Are you there when he's not feeling? No, because you see, today, mental health has become a major issue that our children are dealing with. Even, do you know how many adults I've spoken to in the last few months that have said we have backed off from social media? I said, why? He said, because my mind cannot handle it. I was going to hire a lady to do social media campaign for me. And I said, okay, how far? What's your handle? He said, I only do campaign for people. I don't go there. I said, why don't you go there? I said, you professional. If you don't go there, then who should go there? He said, I know my limits. I know what this thing does to me. We are talking about adults, not to talk of children. So are we there for these children? But again, the major challenge we deal with in Nigeria is that the economy is dealing with us. We have a lot to handle. We are paying school fees. We still need to make money to pay these school fees. There's a lot going on. So parents are on the roller coaster of getting the best for their children. But you know the unfortunate thing, the school fees today is no more naira and kobo. It's no more naira and dollar. The school fees today is the life of the children that we neglect, for whom we are paying the exorbitant school fees. At the same time, we've lost them, because you see, the purpose of education and the purpose of educating children is both learning and behavioral outcome. So when we win the battle of learning outcome, we lose the battle of behavioral outcome. And Harvard University today has found out that for you to make a difference in the world, you need 70–80% of behavioral outcome and only 20% of technical outcome. But today, the investment, all the investment goes into technical outcome while we neglect behavioral outcome.
All right, man. Thank you so much for that, Mr. Akinlami. We need to go on another quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about what parents should actually be looking out for in terms of the signs that their children are probably being abused or there's some grooming going on, and what they can actually do in that instance. Lagos will be back in a moment. Drive time discussion will continue.
8.1.
So what is out from the to the glamorous
traffic lights? People said that's
Mariam and Tony return to this even more charm, style, and glamour. Faith and Talia joined a co-speak that adds some extra spice. Subscribe from 1,200 naira monthly.
It's one of those passive listening girls.
Yeah. Connection is very important.
Alex mentioned.
Go with Airtel Home Broadband Internet devices. Get the 10,000 naira or the 20,000 naira router that gives you 30 gigabytes and 100 gigabyte data instantly. Or the 5,000 naira MiFi and the 7,500 naira MiFi that gives you 5 gigabytes.
Can I answer your question, sir?
Oh, yeah.
More.
Yes, you're even adding Jara to it. If I can put it that way. I don't know how I'm going to do. We need to be finished by 7:51 max.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we need to finish in 3 minutes.
Yeah, about yes. Okay. Where time flies, man.
Time flies.
All right, welcome back, Lagos. This is the final few moments right here on Drive Time Discussion on Smooth 98.1 this evening, Ayo and Joy, as well as our very, very special guest, Mr. Taiwo Akinlami, a social development and family legal practitioner. We've been talking about parenting and safeguarding the child. Before we get back into you telling us the signs that parents need to look out for in their children to identify if they are being abused or there's somebody who is whispering in their ear and grooming them. There's a message here on WhatsApp that I want to take really quickly. And this is a message from Destiny from Lekki, who says, "Good evening, Ayo and Joy, and to your guest. Good evening to you. I'm a mother of 2 young children. I would like to know what age to start to teach my children appropriately what they need to learn, as well as when is the right time for them to have phones." Now, that's a question many people have asked at different times.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to teaching your children sexuality education, experts say 18 months. It begins with talking to them, mentioning, calling their body parts by its names, by their names, you know.
I see that you did not say private parts. You said body
parts.
Body parts, yes. Body parts. Because a child does not have private part. Every part, that's a conversation I can spend the whole day teaching. Every part of the child is private. No public, no private. Because any touch of any part of the child can constitute an abuse based on how the child feels about it. It's not about, there's nobody else can define it except that child who is saying that if you touch my head and I say I feel sensation, are you going to say I didn't feel any sensation? And if I say the sensation is abusive, are you going to tell me it's not abusive? How do you deal with that? If you touch my head or you touch my shoulder, anywhere you touch. Now, if I touch any woman, right, who is above 18, and the woman says that, and when I touch her, she doesn't do anything, she goes away. And she comes back the second day to say, she goes to report me to the police. I'm going to say, well, when I touched her yesterday on the shoulder, we hugged, she didn't protest. I thought she didn't have a problem with it. That was consent. But if I do that to a child, I touch a child, and the child goes to report me to say she felt a sensation, am I going to say, when I touched her yesterday, she didn't express anything, I said she consulted? They're going to tell me she did. A child cannot consent to any form of sexual abuse. People have been deported from Norway. A guy was deported from Norway because he winked at a child. He winked at a child. He has gotten a scholarship to go and study Norway. He winked at a child. And the child interpreted it as sexual. Because how do you wink at a child? He said he thought he was an adult, and it didn't matter. So that is a terrain. You see, look at me. I suffered sexual abuse growing up, physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse. I was totally messed up until I became a Christian in 1997 and I began a journey. Today, I don't look after people's female children. It's not because I have a problem. I don't have any problem. It's my word against, the only female children I can look after, maybe children of my siblings. And there's a level of relationship that we allow that. Because you see, we are dealing with a very dangerous terrain. We are dealing with a culture that can just, say this is what is happening. It's going to be your word. And when children say you have abused them, 94% of the time, they are right. The other day, my 8-year-old niece came to spend holidays in our house, and she was in the toilet. And so I came in to the house, and she left the door of the toilet open. So I called her name. I said, please, can you shut the door of the toilet? She shut the door. I said, can you bolt it behind? So she bolted it. When she came out, I had a conversation with her. Listen to me. Anytime you are in the toilet, it's a private place. It's a vulnerable place. It's your private space. Why do they put a door behind it? Why do they put a lock there? When we eat dinner in this house, do we come to eat dinner in the toilet? Why is there only one seat in the toilet? How come it is not 2 seats? It's because it's for one person per time, private and locked. And why do we put lock behind it? Because when you're in the toilet, it's your most vulnerable place. You remove everything depending on what you go there to do. So you cannot afford not to open the door. Yes, you know me, you know my wife, but what about somebody who comes into this house, breaks into this place, and sees this door open? It's going to be easy for the person to mess you up. But if the door is locked, the person may not even know you are around. He might steal what he or she wants to steal and go away. And if he begins to knock on that door and you are there, when you begin to shout, you may be the one that will raise an alarm that will get him arrested. But if you leave the door open and the person comes in, you are just a prey. I explained all of that to her. Today, that child of 8 years old today is just finished the NYC last week. And we're the best of people because we had all of those conversations. There's nobody who comes to my house. It doesn't matter where they are coming from, what their parents have told them. We sit down to have that conversation. There are things that the tea cannot do to you. There are things Mommy Fumi cannot do to you. These are the things we are to do to you. This is what obtains here. We discuss all of those things. Nothing hidden, nothing is broken. So that is how things should be done. I know our time is spent. Somebody is asking, when do I start this conversation? 18 is suggested 18 months, but you see, before then, before then, you can, when you are bathing for your children, call their body parts by the name. That in itself is sexuality education, because you are demystifying the language that abusers use. They don't call this thing by name. They mess up the mind of children. But a child already knows, this is my penis, this is this is that, this is that. From when the child is, the same way the child can pronounce anything, words. When the child begins to pronounce, you should be able to pronounce his body parts. It's not a problem. It shouldn't be a problem. It should be something we mention, he'll be cringing, or be looking another way, or be looking at mommy before he says it. If he wants to mention his nose, he doesn't look at mommy and say, is it my nose? We should get children to be comfortable with their person, with their gender, with their sexuality. And the way to do it is begin to have that conversation with them early. At what age do you give your children phones? You give phones to your children at the age you believe your children are prepared for it, because you don't give your child a car, and when the child is on Third Mainland Bridge, you are calling the child, hello, what speed are you doing? No. You help you. So what people, it's not about when to give your at what age to give your child a phone. It is about what preparation have you made to teach your children what is the use of a thing, what is the meaning of control. What does it mean? What does the meaning of abuse? What is the meaning of excess? When a child understands all of this, now you say, how can a child understand all of these things? Even a child is distinguished when his conduct is pure and right. We underrate children. If we can spend time to build relationship with children, build inherent positive value system in them, not by beating, not by yelling, not by shouting, not by putting them down, not by disrespecting their emotions, you will see that children will do exploits. There is nothing too strong in this world to put our children down. Children are good in the 1st century, 2nd century, 3rd century till today. It is not that God has positioned this century to say, I'm going to throw away in heaven all the bad children. This is when I want to torment the world with bad children. No, it is never about children. It is about those who are raising them. It is what you bring to the table that children embrace.
Alrighty, Ben, thank you so much for giving us this should I say expose? I don't know if that's the right word to use, but giving us all this information and insight, Mr. Taiwo Akinlami. Time has actually been very much spent, and of course, this is a conversation that it's not a one-part conversation. To be honest,
we definitely
we'll have to figure out a way to have like a part 2, even a part 3 if necessary. But before
I'm
we
available.
go,
I'm just a call away from you.
that's really good to know. Before we let you go this evening, what's your social media handle for all our great listeners out there who might want to reach out to you and just
on
have more conversations with you?
LinkedIn, I'm Taiwo Akinlami. I have a YouTube channel, Taiwo Akinlami. On Instagram, I'm Taiwo Akinlami Returns. On X, I'm Taiwo Akinlami. On Thread, I'm Taiwo Akinlami. Just Taiwo Akinlami. On Facebook, I'm Taiwo Akinlami. Just Taiwo Akinlami. Only on Instagram, I'm Taiwo Akinlami Returns.
Yes. All right. Okay, dokes. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you and talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me, guys.
Evening. It was a pleasure.
I'm grateful. Okay, bye.
Alrighty, Lagos, man. That was quite a conversation that we've had this evening.